All right, let's create a second page. To create a second page, we have to press here the empty page. In this case, well, we can change the empty page name. Let's first change it. Go to page layout, advanced, no, sorry, here. We will call it landing page. Okay. Now back to the pages. If we press on it, then the screen will change, and we have the ability to create a new page, and we have the ability to delete a page by pressing the exclamation mark and yeah, go on remove. But please do not remove this page. Let's create a new one. Create new. Okay, let's save that. Let's give it a new name. Create meeting. Okay, what we can do is we can drag the input field. The input field will give you a label and an input box. And in the label we can just, well, let's duplicate it a few times. Okay, let's give it a name. And then description. Maybe a date. A location. Let me check if this is all what we need. Yep, looks like it. Okay, let's save it. Okay, so one problem is that in our preview we are stuck with our first page. So let's go back to the landing page, and what we do now is we will assign some logic to a component. And to do that, you have to click on the component first, and then you have to open the logic panel by clicking on the black bar on the bottom. So it looks similar to the view canvas, but the logic canvas is giving you logic components to visually program the behavior of an event. On the left side we have the core components, and they are also grouped into navigation, variables, dialog, view, data, device, utility, and advanced. Okay. And in the canvas you usually start with an event. In this case the event is a component tab. So as soon as someone taps here, this event will trigger and fire. It will fire, but nothing is attached to this node. So it will fire, but nothing happens. And what we can do, we can test it by, let's drag a toast component, a dialog. Let's connect those, save. And now what happens is, as soon as I tap this button, the dialog will trigger. Okay, it's not. Maybe I should give it a name first. A message. Okay, if you press on the logic component, Then you have properties and outputs similar to the view component, and this one is required. So let's say hello, save it. Now let's retry. There we are. You can also style the dialog by going on advanced or optional inputs. Right, so this is the duration. Right now it's 2 seconds. We can increase it, let's say 20 seconds. The position, it starts from the bottom, -20. Let's say we want to put more in the middle, -200. We can give it shadow, we can give it a color. In this case, we do not see the color picker. We have to put the color code as a RGB code, let's say 100. And also the text color and so on. So you can play with it. And style your dialog as you wish. So this will remain now for 20 seconds, but I also can click on it and it will disappear. Alright, so let's delete this one. And put a navigation component. Sorry, it's the open page. So we connect those two, and then we will click on the open page and tell the open page to redirect to create meeting page. That's it. We save. Okay, let's go and click on create meeting. And now we are back here to this one. Okay, let's change it to create meeting here on the left side as well. Alright, so what I can do here is I can create a new page, something like, I don't know, room care. This is a test. The date. So right now the date expects to be a text and a location. Room. Chapter. Okay. So the input field works, but it will not give us anything to use these variables. So let's change that. What we do not need is the last one, and let's put the bottom. Let's give it a margin. 150 maybe not that much. Maybe 100 is okay. Create. Okay. And what we want is, as soon as we click on create, well, at this point we cannot save the data because we do not have set up an server. But what we can do is we can hijack the display component and just display the data what we typed in. So what we need to do now is assign each of those values to a variable. We have not looked into the variable canvas yet, but now is the time. So click on a variable, and you will see that On the left side, there are 5 different tabs, and only the first 4 are interesting for you. I think the 5th one is only on the premium account available. Yes. Okay, so what is a variable? A variable is some kind of state that you can save. You can read it, you can write it, and you can use it to update your application. And the Composer Pro platform gives you 4 different variables. The app variable, which is used and accessible from every page. So it's some kind of a global state. The page variable is only accessible within the page. You can read and write it. And the page parameters in this case, so it's a variable, but we call it here parameters because this state is only readable, and you will pass it as a parameter to the page you will open. And the last one is the data variable. And the data variable is the most complex one and the one we have to use because it allows you to fetch data from a server. Okay, so we will not use the data variables in this case, in this input case. We will use the page variable. So we go on the page variable and we will create a new variable. Let's call it name. And we can give it a type. In this case, it should only be a text type. We can leave the example value. Just put something like square meeting 2. All right. And we can also give it an initial value, in which case we do not want. Let's create a few more. Let's create one for the description. It's a text as well. I'm just going to leave the example value as it is. Location. Okay. And a date. Save. So we have 4 variables, or 4 of those are text variables. If we go back to the view, what we can do is, as soon as we focus the input field, we are able to give the value a property or a state, and we can also link the state, the data, with a variable by pressing the little box on the left side. Here, instead of having a static text, we want to use data and variables. And inside of data and variables, we want to go to our page variable, what we have set up, and choose the name. All right. Save. Okay, and we will do the same thing for the description. So press in a box, then go to data and variables, page variable, description. The date, same thing, and location. Okay. Now what you see is that the variable is linked to, well, the value is linked to the location variable, similar to the other ones. Okay, now we can save it. So if we go on in our app to the create meeting, this one will appear empty. It's because the variable is empty to begin with. I can type something. Okay. All right. So what we want to do here is, as soon as I press the create button, I want to display whatever is inside the variable. Okay, let's have a toast, and then we, instead of having a static text, we can press the box as well, and you choose data and variables, the page variable, and in this case let's just choose name. Save. Okay, let's go to the page here. Let's type something. Hello. And there we are. So this hello is linked with whatever I have typed in. So if I change it, it will change as well. Now let's increase a little bit the duration. Okay. So there we have the hello, and if we take this logic apart, we will say, okay, I tapped on the button, the event started and triggered the dialog. The dialog will go and read whatever is inside the data variable, inside the page variable name, and display that. So if I press this button and now I change the value, you will see that this hello will not change. This hello will not change. I have to press again the create button to display the new change value. It's because once this one is triggered, it will just once read whatever it is, make a copy of it, and give it the dialog. And the dialog will display it, but will display it as it is at the time I press the button. Okay. So what we can do is we can say, okay, instead of having only one dialog, I want to have many dialogues. We could Control C, Control V, copy those, and we're not limited to only one outcome. We can connect multiple nodes. And this one should be maybe, let's say, description. We do not want to stack them exactly on top of each other. Let's have something like, I don't know, 80, and this one can be -200. Let's choose the date. Okay, save it. My name, my description, my date. There we are. Okay, great. That's working. One thing which is a bit annoying is that the date, well, it should not be a text, it should be, well, a date. And we can do that by using, in the logic panel, we will find a marketplace similar to the component market. Well, yeah, okay, this one is not called components, this is called flow functions. But, well, I'm mistaken, and also call them components. So let's press on the flow function market, and here we can just type, let's say, date, pick date time. Yeah. Let's try this one. Pick date time. Pick a date time with a blocking dialog. Selecting a date time and confirming will trigger the first output. Canceling the dialog will trigger the second output. If an error occurs, the third output is triggered. So what do they mean with output? Okay, let's first install it. There we are. So on our install tab we have the pick datetime flow function, and what they mean with the output is the number of nodes, and they will count it from the top to the bottom. So the first one is in the case of a success. The second case is when you have cancelled the picking, and the third output will be triggered if an error occurs. So what we want to do, we do not want to put this date time in the page layout. Sorry, I have to remove that. We have to click first on the button and then pull this out. Okay, let's remove those. Let's connect the tab event with the pick date, and let's just try it out to see how it works. Okay, create meeting. Create. There we are. So what I can do is I can choose date. Okay. And now I can choose the time. Okay, great. Nothing happens. Nothing happens because nothing is connected to the outputs. Let's go with a different dialog. Let's go with an alert. There we are. And we connect the alert to the success one. Okay, so what do we want to display? We want to display whatever the datetime flow function is giving us. So we can do that by clicking on the box, and instead of having a static value or a value from the variable, we want to have the value coming from another node. So we select the output value of another node, and then we can actually select any component in the chain going backwards. So we can, the first one is pick datetime, and this one will give you different output nodes. So in the case of the pick datetime, it's a text. Okay, let's save that. And this will be the dialog title. All right, we can try it out. Create. Let's go for default one, and there we are. So this one looks, yeah, it looks a bit crazy, but what this is, it's a formatted way to display text, display a date and a datetime as a text. And the formatting, well, you can read it up on the internet. Usually goes like this: some kind of year, some kind of separator, the month, the day, then the hour, and your time zone. Okay, there we are. So instead of having it on the component tab, we should actually have it on the date itself. So let's remove that. And this one as well. Let's go here. Okay, let's try it out. So now if I press on create, nothing happens, but if I press on date, well, I would say the input field is quite useless in this case. So we might change it. Yeah, let's change it. Let's double click on it, convert it to a container. Here is our input field. And what we do is we will keep the label, but we will remove the input itself. There. Maybe let's drag an icon instead. Okay, let's put on a button. There we are. Let's change the icon to something more timely. Calendar. Okay. Let's give it a little bit margin. Okay, great. So now we want to assign, well, we have it now. What we want to do is, as soon as this one is picked, then we want to set the variable, the page variable date. And we can do that by, let's click the component again, using the logic flow function in data, in variables. So we have one of those: set page variable, set app variable, and set data variable. And we want to set the page variable there. So we connect those two. And we do want to connect. So it asks us for a key and a value, and the key is the variable name. So what variable should we write to? We want to write to the date, and the value itself should be coming from the output node from pick datetime as a text. There we are. Okay, now I can type something. Press here, select the date. And once I create a click of create, the data should be created. All right. So what we have managed is we created a page to create a new meeting, and we can select a date, we can give it some data, and we are storing those in a page variable.